So where we ended in the last class was basically CMOS inverter, and we discussed the logic of it and how Boolean truth table is satisfied by this CMOS inverter. So, so till this point we were there. So basically the summary was that the key observation about this CMOS circuit is that when NMOS is on, PMOS is off. When PMOS is on, NMOS is off. And that gives the opportunity to create a very healthy logic at the output. And all the problem that we faced with NMOS logic family got solved by CMOS logic family. So what we shall do today is we shall enter into another type of discussion called transient analysis or delay analysis of CMOS inverter, which is applicable to any digital gate as well. But before that, let me give you a little bit of background and then I shall discuss the definition of transient analysis and how it works on CMOS circuit. So the background is this, right? So this, we are trying to figure out whether MOS can act as a capacitor. In fact, if you see the basic structure, this structure I have shown you many times before. The top view is the 3D view and the lower view is your cross-sectional view. And from this picture, you can see that there are some inherent capacitance, which we say parasitic capacitance, inbuilt for MOS transistor. And what are those capacitance? If you see carefully, that the most obvious capacitance is that between the channel and the gate, there is oxide or insulator. So that obviously gives parallel plate capacitance, right? When there is an insulator between two conductive material, it basically creates a capacitor. And there are another two very obvious capacitor, which is N plus P junction in source side and N plus P junction in the drain side. So wherever there is a diode type of structure, like in this case N plus P and for source and drain, it creates the depletion region, which I explained on some of the earlier class. And any depletion region means it gives depletion capacitance or diode capacitance. So these three capacitance is very, very obvious from any MOS transistor structure. Okay. So what I shall do in the next page, I shall try to quantify little bit more about all these various capacitance component, but whatever high level I just told you, it remains same. So this is the cross section of MOS transistor. We have taken in MOS, and you can see here that I am showing total 6 capacitance component, and I shall describe what are those individually very soon. So let's start with C1. C1 is the main capacitance which I was just describing in the previous page, where you have the insulator, gate, and the channel. You get a parallel plate capacitor called C1. Interestingly, there is another component called C2. So what happens from channel to substrate or body, in between you have depletion layer, right? So channel to body through depletion layer, that gives another capacitance called C2. So effective capacitance will be C1 and C2 combination as far as the capacitance from gate is concerned. Then there are two interesting capacitance called C3 and C4. But before that, the C1 is always the dominant capacitance. And this equation I wrote before also, that you know from fundamental physics the equation of capacitance, right? That is epsilon A by D. So epsilon by D, in this case D is the thickness of the insulator and epsilon is the permittivity. So epsilon by D is basically Cox, the capacitance per unit area, and the area comes from W into L. So in this picture, this L is actually L effective from source end to drain end. So this is insulator capacitance. Now there are two more capacitance, C3 and C4. If you see from the structure, C3 is formed due to overlap between source and gate. C4 is formed due to overlap between drain and gate, and obviously there is insulator in between. So C3 and C4 is nothing but insulator capacitor only. So the equation for C3, C4 will be WLD into Cox. So where this source overlap and drain overlap, we say LD. W is the other dimension, so that gives the area W into LD. So this LD overlap region, I already defined you long back when I was trying to define the technology node. So that time I gave you the definition of LD already. So that's pretty much gives the overlap capacitance. So the only two remaining capacitance is C5 and C6, which is called junction capacitance or depletion capacitance or diode capacitance, because these two capacitance are coming from pure N plus P diode junction, one at source side, another at drain side. So the next summary is whenever there is a MOS structure in MOS or PMOS, always you will see this 6 capacitance component. Okay. So why I am discussing these capacitors, why they are important. So that will be clear gradually. So let's go to next page. So what happens is that whenever we try to apply this CMOS inverter in a circuit, we always connect something called CL, the load capacitance and the output. So is this load capacitance something manufactured or fabricated? The answer is absolutely no. This CL comes correct by construction because of the capacitive nature of MOS transistor. There is no separate capacitance that we fabricate. We do not want any extra capacitance in the circuit. But that CL comes from those transistors that we manufacture. So how that comes will be clear in the next page. So if you see this next page, this is a circuit where I'm showing one driver inverter and driving 3 receiving inverter. Okay. So now you can see, and they are connected by wire, right? So this is a typical example of any stage of VLSI circuit. No matter what digital gate you use, always there will be a driver, always there will be some receiver, and always there will be wire connecting them. This is a very simple approach of understanding VLSI circuit, and this is a very common thing. Question is from where the CL, I was telling you, right, in this page there is something called CL. So from where this CL is coming. So now let's observe carefully this circuit. You see at the drain end, there is a driver capacitance. And the source of the driver capacitance I already explained you, which is like the drain capacitance, right? Which is diode or junction capacitance, this one. So there will be one diode capacitance from PMOS side, one from NMOS side. Now if you see the receiver, in this example there are 3 receiver connection, and each receiver has one NMOS and one PMOS. So there is a gate capacitance from each receiver NMOS and each receiver PMOS. Now there are 3 receiver, so total 3 NMOS gate capacitance and 3 PMOS gate capacitance. And just to recap, this gate capacitance is this one I'm talking about, C1, which is always the dominant capacitance out of all those, okay, in as per technology. So now what is remaining is the wire. And every wire is nothing but a metal connection, right? It's the wire in reality comes from metallization. It's a metal connection, maybe aluminum, maybe copper, and always there is insulator surrounding the wire. So that always gives a capacitance. So that is why there is a capacitive component from wire. This is C wire. So in summary, what you get, all these capacitances get added to contribute to the total load capacitance. So CL is C driver plus C wire plus C receiver. C driver is dominated by the driver diode capacitance. C receiver is dominated by the receiver gate capacitance, gate oxide capacitance. Okay. And now you can think of a circuit, like if a circuit driver and receiver has a long wire in between, the connecting wire is really long, then the wire capacitance will dominate. Or if you have too many fan out means how many receiver is connected to the driver, then you will also find that majority of the contribution for CL is coming from C receiver or gate oxide capacitance. So that is pretty much the summary from where this load capacitance is coming in real circuit. You cannot avoid this capacitance component, because when you manufacture or fabricate, during fabrication, this MOS has to be created, the wires has to be created, so capacitance will come. Our only goal will be to reduce the value of capacitance. And we shall discuss about that, why we want to reduce the value of capacitance. Okay. So far so good. So since there is no question, so let me go ahead. It's a very simple definition of fan out and fan in. Fan out is actually how many receiver is connected to a driver. That is the definition of fan out. And fan in is for each digital gate, how many inputs are there. So the definition is very simple. Fan out is how many receiver connected to driver. Fan in means how many inputs are entering into per gate. Okay. Now we shall start discussing about transient analysis or delay analysis. First of all, we have to define what is transient analysis, and then we shall discuss more. Now, if you see this sample circuit, what we have some voltage source at the input of the CMOS inverter, and at the output there is a capacitive load CL, and I have already discussed the various source of capacitance like driver capacitance, wire capacitance, and receiver capacitance. So in this example, I am using fan out 1. So in this situation, so let's apply a input waveform with respect to time, V in, which is like this. It's a pulse. Initially it is 0, then transitioning from 0 to 1, then it is at 1, then again transitioning from 1 to 0, and then it remains at 0. Now, what is interesting about this pulse is that some portion it is stable 0, some portion it is stable 1, right? But there are some portion where it is switching 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. And accordingly, if you see the output response, in output, there are some portion which is stable 1, there are some portion which is stable 0. But then when input is switching 0 to 1, output is switching 1 to 0. Again, when the input is switching 1 to 0, output is switching 0 to 1. Now, first question is, which portion of this waveform satisfy the Boolean truth table of the inverter? If you see carefully, when input is stable, say 0, output is also stable, 1. When input is stable at 1, output is also stable at 0. These sections are called steady state section, or this type of analysis is steady state analysis. The state of the circuit is steady state. Now, if you observe, when input is switching, output is also switching. So the switching part is called transient analysis. So this means transient is the time when input is changing, output is changing, but not stable. That is why it is called transient. The question is, why the nature of the curves are like this during transient analysis? So that is what we are going to discuss. But before that, one key concept is, whenever we try to validate or analyze any truth table of a digital gate, we only think about steady state. When we talk about transient state, our focus is not to verify the truth table. Truth table can only be verified when the logic gate is in steady state. So what is the purpose of transient analysis then? The purpose is to calculate the signal propagation delay through all those gates so that the performance or the frequency of the chip can be determined. So that is the purpose of transient analysis or delay calculation. So it will be clear very soon as I move ahead. So now if you see a little bit more detailed picture of what I was showing before, here I am going to define some signal propagation delay parameter. And the whole purpose of delay parameter is that to figure out when input changes, how late output changes. And ultimately, all these delay behavior of each gate contribute to total frequency of the processor or the microchip. So in this case, let's say input is switching low to high, output is falling high to low. The first definition is TP high to low. TP is for propagation delay, high to low means output is going from high to low. So the definition is as per reference of output. Okay. And the threshold criteria of calculating this delay is from 50% point to 50% point. That is the definition as per industry standard. It does not mean that every time we shall take the threshold 50 to 50, but for majority of the digital circuit, we take it 50 to 50. That is industry standard. Same way, when input falls and output rise, this delay TP low to high, you can see that output is now rising low to high. So this delay definition is the rise delay. So the previous one was fall delay. This one is rise delay. Then there is a term called average delay. So average delay is obvious. Rise delay plus fall delay divided by 2. That is the average delay definition of a digital gate. So whatever I am saying for inverter is equally true for any type of digital gate. It's a very generic definition. Now having said that, there are another type of definition. If you see here, let's say the output is falling from 90% to 10%. If you see these two thresholds, 90 to 10. And in this case, output is rising from 10 to 90. So the time taken for output to fall from 90 to 10, that is called fall time. The time taken for output to rise from 10 to 90 is called rise time. So fall time, rise time is another definition for delay calculation. However, the basic difference between delay versus rise time, fall time is delay is always between two signals, let's say from input to output, rise, fall. Rise time and fall time is the property of the same signal, 90% to 10% or 10% to 90%. So these four parameters we always care about when we calculate the delay of a digital gate. The question now, why this type of nature occurs during transient analysis? So let's have some simple circuit analysis of that so that you conceptually understand why this transition delay happens, why the nature of the curves are like that. So this picture explains that phenomena in a very simplistic manner. So let's take this picture in the left hand side. What we are showing is that this is the case where input fall from high to low. As a result, NMOS is now acting as a open circuit. And if you see the PMOS, it is acting like a resistance because PMOS is on, NMOS is off. So what will happen to the output capacitance? The capacitor will get charged to VDD through the PMOS resistance. So now it is acting just like a RC circuit, a very simple RC circuit where the capacitor is charging. As a result, output is going high. Okay, and the delay comes from the fact that there is RC time constant. Capacitance always takes a little bit time to charge up. Now, if you see the right hand side picture, it is exactly opposite scenario where input went from 0 to 1. Now PMOS is off and NMOS is on. So NMOS modeling is resistance. So what will happen? The capacitor will now discharge. And there is RC time constant, and because of that, there will be delay. Now, why I took resistance model for transistor? I assumed for simplicity that during this whole whole transition, transistor is operating in linear region. So that's a simplistic model with linear operation of transistor. So what we get out of this analysis? The analysis is this delay is 0.69 R on C. So for rise delay, R on is RP. For fall delay, R on is Rn. Obviously, in RC model, the delay depends on RC. time constant. So these basic circuits you have studied before. So I'm just connecting it with the transistor concept, and that's it. Okay, so if you really want to have equal rise delay and fall delay, then what will happen? That will only happen when Rp equal to Rn. And in few slides back, I already explained you what are the parameters on which this resistance is dependent. Okay, the channel resistance. So now, what I shall explain is another model. This model assumes that instead of uh, this transistor operating in linear region, it is actually operating in saturation region. As I told you, when transistor is on, two region possible, right? Either linear or saturation. So now what we shall do, if we assume that transistor is operating in saturation region when the capacitor is charging and discharging, then what will be the delay equation? Now, for example, in this case, right, the output is falling, so Tp high to low, and that is why NMOS is on and acting as a current source, and PMOS is off. So capacitor is discharging. So how we get this type of equation now? So what I shall do, I shall simply derive a very simple equation from basic capacitance property, so that this part is clear to you. So let me go back to paint. Oh, so let's take the case where output will be rising. So NMOS is cut off, PMOS is acting like a current source, and this is the output capacitance CL, and the current which is flowing is trying to charge the capacitance. So let's give the name of the current IAV. Now, all of you know that the current through a capacitance from your secondary or high secondary physics, you know, right? So I equal to C dV/dt. Okay. So all of you know that, right? It's a very basic current equation through a capacitance. So dt will be C by I dV. Now in this case, C is CL and I is IAV. So now if I integrate, that will give the delay. As you know, CL is constant, IAV is constant, so the integration changed to last part. So what is the limit? 0 to Tp low to high, because we are talking about output rising, right? So the delay we are calculating is, sorry, low to high. Now what is interesting is that the limit that I shall put for the voltage will be VDD by 2. I am not putting VDD, I am putting VDD by 2. So what is the reason? The reason is, in this case, input falls and now output is rising, right? So the delay definition is from 50% point to 50% point. That is the delay definition, right? If that is the case, then this 50% point that we are talking about, that is nothing but VDD by 2. This is just a definition of delay, right? Which I defined a couple of slides back. So if that is the case, then now you know what delay value will come. TP low to high will be CL by CI average and VDD by 2. Okay, very simple integration.
Sir,
Bolo.
sir, why the limit is VDD by 2?
I just explained that, right? In the left hand side in the page, right?
Actually, I didn't get it. So.
Sure. You can ask multiple times, no problem. Um, this definition is coming from here. From here only, right? When I defined it, the definition itself takes 50% input to 50% output, right? This is the case I was explaining, right? 50% input to 50% output. Since the output is transitioning to 50%, when we are defining the delay, I took exact same thing. Let me go back to the paint. The output is going to 50%. That is why I put the limit VDD by 2. That's the only reason. This is how it is defined in industry. In industry, if they would have defined that you can only take the delay when output reaches all the way up to VDD, then we would have changed that definition. Okay, that's only the convention. That's it. Okay, so now if you see this equation, it's a very simple equation. CL by I average VDD by 2. And then what is written here in the slide? CL V swing by 2 average. So it's basically the same thing except for the fact I use VDD and here they're using V swing. So there must be a connection between VDD and V swing, and the connection is that V swing is VDD. So what is V swing? The definition of V swing is the minimum voltage to maximum voltage. That difference is V swing. Now when it comes to a digital circuit, then minimum voltage is always 0 and maximum voltage is always VDD. So VDD minus V0 is always the total swing. How far output can go low to high. Okay, so both are same. Now another important thing is that what I shall do now, all of you know the basic equation of IAV, and that equation is actually, let me rewrite, the saturation current equation, nothing else, right, which I discussed before, equal to half mu X W by L VGS minus VT whole square. So now if I replace this equation here, only thing you have to remember for PMOS, this mobility will be mu P for PMOS, WL will be WPLP for PMOS. Obviously, in this case, this is VDD. Okay. And for NMOS, when you are calculating the delay for pull down, mobility will be for NMOS, W and L will be for NMOS, like that. Otherwise, the equation is identical, which I told you, right? There is no difference in physics between electron and between NMOS and PMOS. So now, if I replace this equation, ultimately that will change the equation to something like this. So this is the total equation. The delay equation is CL VDD by K, VDD minus VDB square, where this K factor is mu COX W by L. Okay, so they basically put all the parameters together and gave the name K. Here you can see, right, mu COX W by L. Now, in case of rise delay, where PMOS is responsible for capacitor charging, all parameters will be related to PMOS. In case of fall delay, where the capacitor NMOS is responsible for capacitor discharging, then all parameters will be related to NMOS, but the basic equation is same. And if you want to calculate rise delay equal to fall delay, then you just equate this equation, basically, right? Now, most important observation out of this analysis is that what I was talking about, what is the key concept, what is the summary of all this discussion? That is very simple. And that is capacitor charging or discharging. Whether you take resistive model, whether you take current source model for transistor, ultimately what is happening? Capacitor is charging and discharging. Because of that, there is a propagation delay from input to output. Okay, that's the very simple physics of how transient happens, transient analysis. And that is one key observation of this whole thing. And second key observation is that in this case, I took resistive model. In this case, I took current source model. Now, let me tell you, in reality, when the capacitor charge or discharge, the transistor actually goes through both phases. Some portion of the time transistor is in saturation. Some portion of the time transistor is in linear, which will happen if you just follow the characteristic curve. Then why I separated out and made two models? The answer is simply for the simplification. That's it. I want a very simplified model for delay so that I can design the circuit. Now, you will be asking, then I'm losing the accuracy. Because in reality, when capacitor charging discharging happens, transistor go through both phases, linear as well as saturation. So that accuracy you will get when you will do actual simulation in your CAD tool by the tool called SPICE. SPIC, you might have heard about the SPICE. That is the key circuit simulator that we use for VLSI design. And interestingly enough, all this simplified model is only 5% inaccurate with respect to SPICE. So why not we lose that accuracy at the early stage of design, but make the design effort very simple? That is the whole goal. It's like a accuracy versus your complexity. Okay. So that is why we always try to keep these analytical models simple so that you can design. That's the only thing. But again, the key observation of all these is nothing but capacitor charging and discharging when it comes to the delay operation of digital gate. The final picture that I want to cover today, because after that I shall start the next topic, is this. This is a very interesting picture, and what it is saying is that let's say I have a circuit where one inverter, driver inverter, is connected to 4 receiving inverter. This means fan out is 4. So fan out 4 means this kind of picture. Let's say in this picture there is no dot 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 dot. Okay, so one driver inverter connected to 4. Okay, and we are interested in delay of this driver inverter. So this is the situation of fan out 4. So with that situation, if you see this table for inverter, in the left column I have put technology node. All of you already know the technology node. That is the definition of L gate, which I covered in introduction, and these are the numbers you are familiar with. On the right hand side, what you see is the average delay, which I also defined like rise delay plus fall delay by 2, and these are the numbers. Now you have to tell me what is the correlation between these two columns. Do you find any pattern?
Average delay is half of technology node.
Perfect. That's the simple summary. Very good. Only difference is the unit. You need to be very careful with the unit. Is that when we put the unit for technology node in nanometer, delay we are putting in picosecond, then this simple thumb rule works. Like 250 nanometer L-gate, average delay will be 125 picosecond. So that gives a very good idea about for every advanced technology, what should be kind of the average delay through each digital gate. So this is example with inverter for benchmarking. Now, for example, in our lab, if you get opportunity to do lab in this semester, you will be working on 180 nanometer TSMC process. There you will find that average delay of the gates will be coming in the range of 90 picoseconds. Now, if college allows for online lab, I have the technology with 45 nanometer. There you will find the average delay is coming in the range of 23 picoseconds. In reality, depending on particular foundry and all, there will be plus minus 10-15% difference, but this is pretty much kind of statistical average. The purpose of this type of table is to tell that when you start working on a new technology, let's say 180 nanometer, and if you start getting delay in the range of 11 picosecond, you know something is grossly wrong, something is broken. Or if you work in a 32 nanometer technology and get the average get delay like 90 or 100 picosecond, you know something is obviously wrong. So this type of benchmarking is very, very important. Depending on technology, you should have certain range of delay operation, and this type of table really helps to calibrate or understand what you are doing is actually right. Okay, so this is a very interesting picture to remember. Um, and the next topic is new, so that is why I want to stop here, and whatever I have discussed is already in is posted as a part of volume 3 PDF. Okay, so Sukarna is taking your attendance.